Okay. Okay, this is going to be a video on doing the part 2 of micrography. In this part, we've got the basic. In part 1, we have the image, the essential, just basic black and white image of Abraham Lincoln, and we were able to see how to condense the text, hopefully, to be able to make these shapes visible. Now, right now it's pretty basic. I like to kind of take it a step further to be a little more inventive and creative, and maybe incorporate some of the photographic elements and just kind of feel this out. So that's going to be part 2. Now, what you learn in part 2 can be taken in many different ways when you get ready to do your own creative version. Okay. But when you get ready to do your version, you're going to start out like this, and then you're going to extend that into your more creative version. So anyway, I'm going to show you what we're going to try to create. So this is my practice to kind of get into working with some of the different things we want to try to do. Part of it is, you can see there's sort of some more grays now in the black, and there's some more grays kind of in the white area. So we have a little more detail, a little more definition, a little more 3D. So it's a little more subtle, just more to look at. And when you look in the background, put in a color, like a tint of a color, kind of a transparent kind of overlay of color on top of the image. That was something I found online, and I'm going to show you that. And then lastly, we did some more text kind of design on the image. And you might find your own way of going about doing that. I'm going to talk about that. Okay. All right. So let's get to this. All right. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, try to isolate the background so that then I can put in that image I was showing you. So let's do this. I'm going to click on the gray layer, and I'm going to let's see, I would like to try to erase this background. That would be ideal if I can select that and then erase that background, because that's where I want to put in that photograph. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my quick selection tool, make sure it's on the plus, make sure, let's see, I don't know. All right, we'll try that. I haven't used quick selection tool in a while. Make that a little bigger. Let's just see if it'll only, I was a little worried about that. Well, I can take the minus tool and see if I can go in and fix that. Let's see, because it went over into the image. I was afraid of that. I was hoping the text would define that edge a little better. So I lost part of my selection there. If you go Command Z, it will bring back your selection. So I'm going to sit here and try if I can work with this. Sometimes zooming in, you can get things to be more fine-tuned, or either decrease the size of the selection tool. This might be just a little difficult here, or else I might have to find another way of going about doing this. There we go. Nope. It's just that one section right there is giving me some problems. Okay, let's go down here. Now what I could do, which I probably should have done, is just took the time to take a paintbrush and go and outline this image. I was hoping to be able to do it this way. All right, so let's try that. Or the eraser, to be honest. Or there is another way. There is another selection tool. If I go to the lasso tool, I can do this kind of chunks at a time. Come down here and delete that. So maybe you can try whatever selection or way you want to eliminate your background. I have on my trackpad, I have one finger on the trackpad and I have another finger to move my lasso around. I have to come back to the beginning to complete those loops. Okay. And then here, I can just take my eraser and go in and erase the rest of the background. Now, if you wanted to, you could just take your eraser and just go around and erase. That's totally up to you. So maybe I'll switch over to my eraser. I was starting to see some of the photograph come from around the edge. And what I'm trying to do is I want to, I still want to separate the image from the background. So I'm going to do that kind of color in the background. In your creative version, if you want to overlay another color on top of the image of the person, so we're going to incorporate some color. All right, so now I increase my eraser size. All right, so we eliminated the background. So I want to put in a color into the background. And I'm going to do that by putting it underneath my gray layer. So I'm going to create a layer, selected the bottom layer, and create a new layer underneath the gray. Okay, that goes throughout the entire background. Actually, let's incorporate the image first. Okay, let's do that. So I found an image online of just something from the time period of Abraham Lincoln. I tried to look for different things. I looked up like artifacts and imagery, anything like that I could find. So the Civil War took place during that time. So I found a rather gruesome image, but still I wasn't interested in the gruesome aspect of it. This is the image. It was Antietam battle. But I really was responding to this house and these wheels right here. So I'm going to use that in my background. And so I'm going to open that and just give it some background to it. Right now it just looks pretty bare, pretty plain. So I'm going to find the image I downloaded, open that up. I'm going to select all that, copy it, and then paste it. Now I need to situate it to where I want it. And you can see, Abraham Lincoln's getting a little lost in this, because it's black and white. And that's why I'm going to add that hint of color. Whoops. I thought that would constrain it, but it's not. Okay, so I can move that around some more later. I'm not so interested in the dead bodies down there, but all right. So I feel pretty good about that right now. But again, the image is just competing with Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so what I'm going to do is well, there's a couple of different ways I could do this. I could put a color here on this layer underneath and turn the opacity down on this layer. Either way, I want it to be not competing with Abraham Lincoln right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do, see if I can go and select a color now. I had kind of a gray color, bluish color, and the last one, so I don't want to put it on top of my photograph. So let's see what it can look like underneath. So that's pretty good. And again, I'm changing the opacity on that photograph. So it could just be something like that. See, now that Abraham Lincoln reads better, he's standing out from that. It's not competing. And I could even, I don't know. Let's see what it looked like if I did the blue layer on top. And then turn the opacity down on that. About the same. Either way. If I turn the opacity up on this now, it can kind of come through a little better. So I think I'm liking it a little bit more on top. Now there's other things I can do with that image. If I wanted to dim it down a little bit, I can go in, I got that image layer selected. I can go into adjustments and levels, and I can take down some of the contrast within the image. Actually, let's add in contrast. Let's take these down. So that makes the image kind of dim. I can really take it to extremes, and that's something you want to play with. And I'm just trying to see how that looks with Abraham Lincoln. That's kind of what I'm going with, just the readability and how it goes. So, okay. So I feel pretty good about that. All right, so we'll go with that. Maybe there's more it can be done, but we'll go with that for right now. So right now, what I want to do, I'm going to actually cut some of this off, actually all of this, and get back to the image of Abraham Lincoln. Okay. And what I'm going to do is, actually, I really need to actually kind of erase the background on this one too. Well, I need to have it selected, and I can't do anything with it right now because it's got a lock on it. So I'm going to double click on that layer and click OK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a filter on this background. And I'm going to go to Filter Gallery. And this is cutout. Okay, so you got all these different ones, but we want to use cutout, make sure this one's highlighted. And I really like what cutout does with some of the shapes. It just takes the values and gives them, has more, well, it defines the different value areas, makes them different value areas kind of more simplified, but not so simplified to the extreme of the threshold where you just have white and black. We still have grays, but they're kind of grouped and kind of shaped. So we can adjust all that with the number of levels. And, we're just kind of going for a look. It has simplicity here where it can get very abstract. If we want to do that. And then we got edge fidelity, which right now it's not really doing anything, but when we increase this, the fidelity does affect things. So you decide the look you want. Kind of want a few more grays, kind of like how that's popping up in the hair right there and around the eyes. So I'll just go with that. Well, maybe I'll change the fidelity a little bit, get a little more definition in there. So you decide how you want that to look. I'm going to click OK. And actually, I kind of like how this background turned out. Okay. Trying to decide if there's a way I could incorporate some of that and separate it from the image. It's almost like I'd have to duplicate this. Not that I'm trying to complicate anything, but that's what I'm trying to show you is different options we have. So I'm duplicating that layer. And on this one, I'm going to erase the background again. And we cut this bottom layer off so we can actually see what I'm doing. I am erasing. Yeah, I think I like the erasing better than the selecting. I'm having a hard time with the selecting. It's just, when it's just all gray, the selection tool, the quick selection tool wants to grab, doesn't know what to grab. When you got separate areas of color, then it's easier. All right. All right. So we have that, and we have that. Now, the reason I did that is I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to bring this above my gray layer. Really don't even really need the gray layer anymore. And I'm going to bring this above my gray layer as well. So it's above the blue. The face on this one's not going to be incorporated at all, really. What it's going to be about is this background. So I'm going to cut this one off. I'm going to take this one and drop the opacity on it. And I'm going to turn these layers on. And I'm going to drop the opacity. And I wasn't anticipating that. It came up as checkerboard. Why is that? Oh, these came out really dim. Oh, I need to cut this one on. Okay. All right. Okay. So it was important. I was actually using opacity. I'm actually using all three of these layers right here for my background. You can kind of see why that turned out the way it did. This bottom layer, I think, is 100% opacity, whereas these other ones are a lower opacity. This one's 33, this one's 21. So I needed something fully opaque underneath. Now, what I'm seeing here is why I have this layer even incorporated. You can kind of see some of this kind of, I don't know, debris, if you want to call it. Just gives it some shape over the photograph, just kind of give it layers. And, I'm not really looking at the image of Abraham Lincoln. So let me cut on this layer so that maybe you can kind of see what I'm talking a little bit better when I cut this on and off. And again, I don't know, maybe that's not going to work. I don't know. I just thought maybe it might look neat. So now that's just so subtle back there. It kind of gives it, again, kind of just some depth to it. And now maybe I might want to go back and increase some of the contrast on that image. I don't know if that really did anything, or maybe I want to bring back some of the opacity of it. And maybe I want to increase some of the contrast on this, if it will. Doesn't like it will. Oh, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. So, okay. Kind of neat stuff, maybe. So let's cut on our lettering now and see what that looks like. Okay. And see that just kind of just took it that much further, I feel like. Now it's got the text, it's got the image. But I kind of feel like it's the things are getting a little too contrasty, even in uh, this image. It's just, I don't know. So let me go in that. I might turn down, adjust contrast on that. And this is the layer that was the, where we did the, I'm just going to cut off these layers just so we can focus on it. Where we did the filter of the cutout. So what I'm going to do is go to image adjustments, go to levels, and maybe I want to make it a little less contrasty. Or just move these sliders around and find something I feel comfortable with that might look good when the text is on top. So I'm going to put the text on top now, kind of see how that's interacting. And I'm going to stay on this layer, and maybe if I can go in, make more adjustments. This is how I want to see how it looks with that text. Lose the text there if I do that. A little too contrasty. Okay, so I feel pretty good about that. I see the text pretty well. It's interacting well with the image. There's a lot of interesting little details and grays coming through. So I'll click OK. Now let's click on these bottom layers just for the final touch and see how that looks. And back off. Pretty cool. I feel pretty good about it. It's kind of got this weird kind of stuff sticking around the edge right here. I might go in and erase some of that. Where I think it's lingering over from this part of the image going out there. So if I went in my eraser on this layer and kind of touch some of that up, kind of gives it this kind of strange outline. I might want to kind of go and adjust some of that, maybe. Maybe a little too much there. Kind of like that a little bit right there. So anyway, I'm going to have to leave it right there because I've run out of time. So we're going to make this, I'm going to two-part video. And who's to say, I might still go in and work with this background some. Kind of feel like the edges around this is just, I don't know, not really sure I'm liking how that's looking, not sure. But anyway, we'll leave it there for now. And I'll make a separate part for the lettering of this lesson.